Hi, Helen from crystalsandcrochet.com here. This video tutorial is to show you how to make the puff daisies for the My Nameless blanket. I would like to point out that this stitch was designed by me and is covered by copyright law in the pattern and is not to be duplicated in any other published pattern or video tutorial. Okay, so you have completed round 6, which is fairly straightforward to this point, and now in round 7 we're going to make the puff daisies. Okay, so we're going to join with a beginning puff stitch in the second double crochet or treble if you're UK terms of any increase. Okay, so where we've made 3 double crochet into that front post double there, the second one, middle one, is where we're going to start. Okay, so to make a beginning puff stitch, yarn over, then go into that second double crochet, pull up a loop and lift up, keep hold of these loops on your hook so they don't slide down, okay, and lift that loop up so that you've got the height of a double crochet. Okay, and then you're going to need to do that 3 more times to make your puff. So yarn over, in and up, yarn over, in and up, yarn over, in and up. Okay, if that's sort of twisted round, don't worry, just pull down on the tail end and it will bring it down right. So you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 loops on your hook, okay? And you're going to yarn over, pull through all of those loops and make a closing chain 1. Okay, and that closing chain 1 in there, if you can see it, is where you're going to make all of your other puff stitches. Okay, sorry, just had to do a little bit of an adjustment on the video camera. Okay, so we're now going to chain 2, okay, because that closing chain 1 doesn't count. So we chain 2, and then we're going to make a puff stitch into that closing chain 1. Okay, so yarn over, into the chain 1, pull up your loop, okay, but if you keep hold of the puff stitch here, then you'll find you won't stretch that chain 1 out too much. And 4 times through all of them, chain 1 to close. Okay, we're going to do that 5 times. So chain 2, puff stitch into this same closing chain 1 on that first puff. 1, 2, 3, oops, get some more yarn, and 4. Through all of them, chain 1 to close, chain 2. Okay, so we've got 3, or we've done 2 of our repeat. We've got a first one and we've got 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull through, chain 1 to close, chain 2. Okay, again, 1, 2, 3 and 4, through all of them, chain 1 to close, chain 2. Get some more yarn there. Okay, so we've done 4 so far, so now we're on the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1 to close, and yes, okay, so we've got our first puff stitch here, and then we've done a chain 2 puff stitch 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first chain 2 space is here. It sits right on the side of that first puff stitch. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chain 2 spaces and 6 puff stitches. Okay, we're now going to chain 4 and skip 4 stitches. Sorry, excuse Mr. J. Okay, so chain 4, skip the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in this next stitch we're going to make our next puff daisy. So yarn over into the stitch and pull up your loop, and again, a little bit like when we made this sort of almost standing puff stitch, don't worry if this spins round a little bit, we'll adjust that just before we close the puff stitch. Okay, so we've gone 1, 2, 3 and 4. Just pull that chain 4 down so that it's at the bottom there. Yarn over through all 9 loops and make your chain 1 to close. Okay, and then we do the repeat again. So it's chain 2 and puff stitch into that closing chain 1 space of your first puff stitch. 3 and 4. Chain 1 to close, then chain 2. Okay, so we've done that once. There's the second one. And just keep going so that you've got 6 puff stitches and 5 chain 2 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Close, chain 2. Okay, so it is actually quite simple. I know some people have been a bit foxed by it, but it really is quite a simple stitch. The slightly more complicated part is the next couple of rounds where you have to fix the puff daisy in place. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's the last one. Okay, so that's what your puff daisies are going to look like. They're very wobbly at this point. Okay, I'm going to go all the way round so that I can actually show you the next round where we bring this chain 4 in and hide it away. And there is already a video that shows you round 9, which is the sort of tricky bit of working the front post stitches around the puffs. So I'm just going to whiz round and then I will show you how to do round 8. Okay, so there we are with all of our daisies made. We have got 12 of them, and then we've got a chain 4 space in between each of those daisies. Okay, now if you found that some of your daisies, let me just zoom in a wee bit, some of your daisies are really neat and then some have got slightly larger holes, all you need to do is just wiggle them round a little bit and it will even them out. And if you just pull slightly on that first chain 2 there, it will close that centre hole up slightly, but they'll vary a little bit, but that's all part of the uniqueness of something handmade. Okay, so round 8 we're going to be working over these chain 4 spaces and behind round 7, which is the puff daisies, and we're going to work into round 6. Okay, so what we're going to do is continue from here, but we're going to hide this behind our work. Okay, so we're going to join with a standing single crochet in the last stitch before any puff daisy. So if we take this one here, we're going to work over this chain 4 and into this stitch here. Okay, so into there, and then just bend that puff daisy forward to pull up your yarn and make your single crochet. So you've just trapped that chain 4 in there. Okay, we're going to chain 2 and again flip that puff daisy forward, because we're going to work into these 4 stitches here but over the chain 4. So put your hook under the chain 4 and then pull it over so that you can go into that stitch quite easily, and pull up your yarn, make your single crochet. Okay, it's a little bit fiddly because the puff daisies get in the way, but it's also really quite simple. Okay, so we've made 4 single crochets into those 4 stitches in between the puff daisies, and we've trapped that chain 4 in. Let me just zoom out a weeny bit. There we go. Okay, so chain 2, skip the puff, push it over out of the way, and then into that stitch working over that chain 4. Okay, and then carry on. Your chain 4 will have a little bit of give, so you can stretch it a little bit to just make it easier to get into those 4 stitches. Okay, and chain 2. So what you've then done is trapped the chain 4s and fixed that in place. So the next video tutorial then takes you through working that next round and starting to secure these puff stitches so that they will sit up like that and the chain spaces will be hidden. Okay, so the chain spaces are there just purely to move from one puff stitch to the next, but it will puff up like that and you shouldn't see any chain spaces at all and no gaps once you've completed the next part. Okay, so I hope that's helped those of you who've struggled a little bit with the Puff Daisies. Thanks for watching.